Let's continue. And there another big topic. Another big topic is, of course, long-range weapon systems that Kiev regime is already formally Kiev regime is already firing against Russia, and might have in its disposal in short. And for example, RIA Novosti is reporting that German Chancellor Friedrich Merz stated that, well, Taurus missiles could be delivered to Kiev regime. He is considering such a possibility. So deliveries of long-range Taurus cruise missiles to Ukraine are in the realm of possibility, but we require lengthy training of Ukrainian servicemen, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz said in an interview with the ZDF TV. And of course, he is not completely honest here. We all understand that these weapon systems, Taurus missiles, going to be operated by German militaries, 100%. We don't even have to guess, by the way. We all remember this phone conversation between high-ranking German officers, isn't it? That was leaked by RT, that was, I believe, when German officers were discussing how they're gonna destroy Crimean Bridge with their Taurus missiles, right? They were not discussing that they're gonna train Kiev regime's military personnel to do it. No, they were discussing how they're gonna do it, right? They're gonna be in charge. And so, therefore, I guess either these Taurus missiles and their German personnel, military personnel that can operate with these weapons, is already in Kiev controlled territory or will be there in short. And most likely we're gonna see during this new phase of escalation between NATO and Russia, we're gonna see increased range in these long-range strikes on Russia, significantly increased range, because Taurus missiles have 500-kilometer range. British Storm Shadow and the French Scalp PG missiles that were already used against Russia hundreds of times, they have 300-kilometer range approximately, right? So significant developments, of course, and as I said in my previous updates, also on my latest program on Patreon and Boosty, probably Russian side should be ready to deal with their Taurus missiles also, alongside with Storm Shadows and Scalp PGs. And I have no doubts that Russian air defense systems, Russian militaries will do their best to protect their fellow citizens from these enemy strikes. And by the way, these strikes might take place very soon, either in the next several days or next several weeks, because we have this report from TASS news agency that Germany is stating that Kiev will receive long-range systems in a few weeks. So long-range weapon systems will be at the disposal of Ukrainian armed forces within a few weeks. This was reported by German defense ministry. So yet again, we don't have to guess nothing, isn't it? I mean, most likely these systems already on the Kiev-controlled territory. And as you can understand, this topic of increased range in strikes against Russia definitely anger many people in the Russian Federation, ordinary people that are paying attention to these developments, and there are also officials, public figures. And we have this statement, for example, that Russia is ready to shut down German Taurus missiles and strike not just the launch sites, but their places they came from. This was stated by State Duma Defense Committee head Andrei Kartapolov, high-ranking official, I will say, because he is head of Parliament Committee on Defense Committee. So probably he has much more knowledge on situation than publicly available. Also, this is not all, by the way, and this is, I guess, we can see as direct threat to countries that will be engaged in these long-range strikes. Germany, that is, potentially Romania, also because planes that will launch these long-range cruise missiles might take off in Romania, then use some of the airfields on Kiev-controlled territory as a jump airfields, or maybe even some roads, by the way, that will be adapted to be used as a jump airfields to refuel the planes, and then these planes might reach Russian border, maybe even cross border and fly low and penetrate as deep as they possibly can and launch these missiles after that. That will increase, of course, range of strike significantly, right? So maybe Kartapolov meant that not just Germany can be targeted, or country of origin of these Taurus missiles, but also some other countries that will also be engaged in these attacks. Romania, for example. There are reports that Romanian airfields already being used for strikes against Russia. So this would not surprise anybody, I guess. And as I said, this is not all. For example, RT's editor-in-chief, Margarita Simonyan, stated that Russia could target Berlin if German missiles hit Moscow. I mean, why just Moscow? Maybe, she didn't just elaborate. Maybe she meant that if German missiles hit Russian cities, Moscow or any other. But let's go through these details here. Russia would not rule out direct strike on Berlin if German personnel help Ukraine, if German military personnel help Ukraine target Moscow with the German-supplied Taurus missiles. RT's editor-in-chief, Margarita Simonyan, has warned speculation that Germany could supply Ukraine with Taurus missiles capable of striking targets up to 500 kilometers away and potentially reaching the Russian capital from Ukrainian territory was reignited after Chancellor Friedrich Merz said Berlin and its partners, US, UK, France, others, had lifted the restrictions on the range of Western weapons Ukraine is allowed to use. German office officials, however, have not confirmed any decision to send the Taurus systems. Although, as I already reported, he didn't also say that Taurus missiles would not be deployed. He said that it's a possibility, and therefore I think Taurus missiles already are on Kiev control territory. There are some indicators for that. And by the way, also one should keep in mind that NATO countries can actually build their new cruise missile that will be hybrid of Storm Shadow and Scalp EG, for example, or their Taurus missile, and they could deploy this, which is going to be, technically speaking, not that difficult really for military-industrial complex of the West, and they can send these weapons into Kiev-controlled territory, and then let Kiev say that this is their own weapon, right? It's not the German weapon, not the British, not the French, not the US, but it's their own domestically built long-range weapon system. Maybe this is also their potential scenario that West wants to implement in upcoming days and weeks. So we should keep that in mind also. But anyways, let's continue with this news. In a post on Wednesday, in a post on the social media, Simonyan warned that Germany could face dire consequences if the Taurus is ever used for attacking the Russian capital. In Moscow, officials, among Russian officials, it is being discussed that the German troops strike Moscow with the German weapons. If German troops strike Moscow with German weapons, the only option left for Russia is to strike Berlin, stated Simonyan. She went on to explain that the Taurus strike on Moscow would have to be prepared and executed by German service members because the Ukrainians cannot maintain the Taurus or program it for a flight mission, which is correct. And very same can be said about Storm Shadow and Scalp EG missiles that UK and France are using against Russia for quite a long time. Hundreds of these missiles already being used. And I remember times before Scalp EGs and Storm Shadows were deployed, that a number of high-ranking Russian officials, also public figures, were coming up with somewhat similar statements that Russia will retaliate and retaliate strong, and military assets of countries that will use these long-range weapons against Russia will be targeted there, not just on Kiev-controlled territory, but elsewhere also. And after that, as I said, hundreds of Storm Shadows were launched to strike deep into Russian territory, hundreds of Scalp EG missiles, also ATACMS missiles, by the way, US-made ATACMS. And, last time I checked, Moscow did not target no military assets of US or UK or France. So therefore, maybe very same will happen now. And all these strong statements from public figures here in Russia or the officials is just attempt to, I don't know, I don't know what that even is, man. Maybe it's just attempt to play strong, but long-range weapon systems already being used against Russia hundreds of times. UK long-range systems, French long-range systems, US long-range systems, and somewhat similar statements were made then too by public figures here in Russia and officials. Did anything happen in terms of real, true retaliation on assets of these enemies? No. So maybe nothing will happen now too, and all this talk about striking Berlin and retaliating on German militaries and this and that is just also just a talk. Maybe, I don't know. But I guess it's worth this whole statements probably worth some attention at least. So I'm mentioning about it. TASS news agency, meanwhile, is reporting that Zelensky, who was in Europe, and maybe he still is in Europe, by the way, on yet another his trip to ask for more money and more weapons. Well, he stated straight away while arriving in Europe that he wants another 30 billion US dollars to continue conflict with Russia. So Ukraine needs 30 billion dollars from the West to establish weapons production and continue the conflict with Russia. Zelensky stated upon arrival in Europe. He was in Germany, I believe, and probably he will receive this money. Globalist and globalist-controlled regimes in Europe or in North America or elsewhere already allocated hundreds of billions of dollars for this proxy war that they are waging against Russia. So therefore, I think this 30 billion that Zelensky is demanding also going to be allocated. And Germany is already on that page. Germany is already agree with Zelensky that yes, Berlin will provide Ukraine with more money, more weapons. For example, we have this information that I shared on my Telegram and Twitter X page that Germany sends another 500 billion euros, 500 billion euro more in military aid to Kiev regime. So Germany will provide Ukraine with an additional 5 billion euros in military aid, according to Defense Ministry Pistorius. The Bundestag detailed their allocation, funding long-range weapon production in Ukraine. You see, dear friends, this topic of funding long-range weapons production in Ukraine is already being implemented in some ways. And maybe what I said a couple of minutes ago is exactly that is going to happen. When NATO countries will build their long-range cruise missiles, let's say, or whatever missiles, and they will let Kiev regime to declare that this weapon system is completely built in Ukrainian made, right? And maybe that's the scenario that globalists and their puppet regimes are working right now, because last several days I see this topic quite often, appearing in different media reports. This funding of long-range weapon production inside Ukraine. This is all BS, by the way. We all understand Russia will take out any facility that will be engaged in such activities. So safest way for globalists to, organize long-range strikes into Russia while claiming plausible deniability that this is not our weapons, this is a Ukrainian weapon, is to build these weapons somewhere in Germany or France or UK and then transfer to Kiev controlled territory, as if these weapons being built there. They might even mark, by the way, details of these weapons in Ukrainian. And also that once these weapons are intercepted and and fragments being found, they will maintain plausible deniability in their hands because they can say, no, see, details there. It's a Ukrainian words there or something, Ukrainian flag. Okay. For what else Germany is allocating money? Additional munition, especially for air defense, repair facilities, and the joint military enterprise in Ukraine. Partial funding for Starlink and Ukraine's military communication systems, medical equipment. So another 500 billion euro of German taxpayers is going in pockets of Zelensky, his criminal associates, their corrupt German colleagues, and some funds, from these 5 billion euros, probably billion, eventually billion or two maybe, eventually will be spent on promised items or promised topics. Meanwhile, by the way, NATO is demanding from Germany itself to form 7 new brigades, which is about 40,000 troops. This was reported by Reuters, yet supplying more active soldiers will be a major challenge for Berlin as the Bundeswehr already faces some 20,000 troop shortfall. So good luck with that. Good luck. Definitely Germany going to fail to attract 40,000 citizens to join army. So therefore, most likely in either towards the end of this year or maybe next year, Germany and a number of other European NATO member states will start introducing, step by step, but introducing conscription. That's what is going to happen. Even that might not work, because I'm not sure that young generation in Germany dreams about being mercenaries of private military companies that Bundeswehr has become, or the puppets of the globalists. But who knows? Who knows? Without conscription, Bundeswehr will for sure fail to attract tens of thousands of people. It's just not happening. And also Germany. Germany does make a lot of headlines last 12 to 24 hours. RT is reporting that German Chancellor Merz once again went to say that he will block Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which is destroyed, by the way, which is destroyed, right? So what is wrong with this crazies, man? So German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has pledged to do everything to prevent the Russian Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline from being launched. And this is, by the way, this statement is wrong in so many levels, isn't it? This Merz maybe not even realized it, that Nord Stream 2 pipeline was a German pipeline also. It was a combined project of Russia and Germany. And German taxpayers' money was thrown into this project too. Not just private business was engaged, but also federal funds there. And he is saying that this is a Russian Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline. German people should be embarrassed, by the way, by these statements and they're angered. But nothing to be said about Nord Stream 2 pipelines themselves. Both two pipes of this Nord Stream 2 is destroyed. It is destroyed, right? So no matter how many times you're going to sanction these pipelines, they are not working anyways, right? But maybe what is happening is that globalist control Europe is not happy with some forces in US that want to make some money in energy sector, and there were some initiatives, I reported about it earlier, that there were certain groups in US that want to get engaged in energy business when it comes to Europe. They want to invest, according to some media outlets, in a Nord Stream, rebuild it, and then buy gas and they want to invest also in a pipeline infrastructure in Ukraine, and also in a Turk Stream, and then buy gas on the Russian border and resell it. Just resell this gas as American one to Europeans. So they basically want to make a good buck out of thin air. And I guess globalists are not happy about it, and because that will, further increase dependence of Europe on Russian energy and also on US energy. But what other options do they have, really? I mean, I don't know. Do they want to destroy European economy completely because they need energy, and there is only so many places from where you can get this energy, right? One is Russia, another is US, by the way, in terms of LNG, for example, for sure. There is a Qatar, Australia, but Qatar and Australia mainly are focused, big players, by the way. Number one and number two players in an LNG sector is Australia and Qatar. They are mainly focused on global south because they pay more, right? They pay better, right? So I don't know, globalists might actually destroy completely. They are already on that path of destroying European economies, and it seems like they're going to continue to do so. With impunity, by the way, because it seems like a vast majority of societies in European states just don't care. I mean, I see no activity on their behalf, right, to prevent this craziness of their political leadership. So it is what it is. And by the way, this is also interesting news that Swiss authorities have allowed the state arms company to sell 71 Leopard 1A5 tanks to Germany. And of course, these tanks are eventually going to end up in hands of Kiev regime's forces. And I mean, this is another indicator, additional one. There's plenty of it, right? That Switzerland, in no circumstances, can be considered by anybody as a neutral state. It's total nonsense. And to save the face, by the way, what Swiss officials say is that these tanks will. Swiss is selling these tanks to Germany under promise that these tanks would not be transferred to Kiev regime. Do you believe in this, by the way? I mean, quite a weak attempt to save the face on part of Swiss leadership. Let's be real, right? Why political elites or political class in Switzerland decided to destroy their own country and whatever reputation that country had, I don't know. It's a mystery, but they are harming Switzerland so much, man, with this lustration, basically. That's what it is, isn't it? This is lustration of Switzerland. And hardly anybody with brains will ever consider Switzerland to be neutral, because it's not, right? And same can be said about Austria, by the way, although Austria is acting more carefully. Surprisingly, Austria is, in some ways at least, acting more carefully than Switzerland, although none of them can be considered as a neutral, of course. And I will end this news segment, dear friends, on this news that Musk, is leaving Trump's administration. So the head of the U.S. Department of Government Efficiency, Elon Musk, announced on the social network X that he will leave his post in the administration of President Donald Trump. His term, by the way, his first term is finishing, and seems like he is not. If he will receive contract to prolong his work, he's going out, by the way. And this is yet another my prediction that become true, isn't it? I was saying from the beginning, even before Trump's inauguration, when it became clear that Musk gonna be in Trump's team, that I said that most likely. I was saying about Musk, and I was saying about Ramaswamy, that they will leave Trump's administration first or among the first. And I was correct, by the way. Ramaswamy never really became true member of administration, real member of administration. And Musk is leaving just in the 6 months because he had enough. He realizing that Trump's administration is not about America first. Trump's administration is not about cutting federal spending. Trump's administration is not any different than previous administration or the previous. They all work for neocons. They all work for military-industrial complex, for multinational corporations, right? That Musk himself is representing, by the way, in some sense, right? And maybe he had some high hopes, but well, he's leaving now. We have quote from Musk: "As my planned term as a special government employee comes to an end, I would like to thank President Donald Trump for the opportunity to reduce wasteful spending. DOG's mission will only grow stronger over time as it becomes a way of life across government." Come on, man, this is just this post cannot be taken seriously. By the way, I mean he should be disappointed big time, Musk, and well. He should be a genius, isn't it? Why he was thinking that Trump's administration would act any differently than previous ones, man. He is a literally genius of our times, and it made such a mistake. He sponsored Trump's election campaign for hundreds of millions of dollars, right? And even become a part of administration. Wow, even geniuses do make mistakes, by the way, right? And this is a clear example of that. So I predicted that he will leave, and he is doing exactly that. And by the way, I predicted also that there will be no serious cuts in federal spendings under the Trump, and that's exactly the case. U.S. debt will increase at least for several trillions, at least like 3-4 trillions. During the Trump's presidency. Mark my word, by the way. If U.S. national debt stands on 36 trillion right now, when Trump will leave, that number will be around 40 trillion, potentially more, right? Just for a Pentagon, by the way, Trump is planning to allocate over $1 trillion. And this is happening in a country that lives on borrowed money. I mean, I can understand why Musk and many other people, by the way, are disappointed. Many public figures in U.S., especially among centrists, one may say, also among libertarians, by the way, they are so disappointed, isn't it? Hello, everyone. I hope you find informative and useful this short clip from main news update, and if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything. It might help to deal with the algorithm and reach wider audience. And if you like my work in general and want to support to save this media project, you can assist through several ways. You can donate to this project through PayPal platform or Boosty, also with the crypto currencies, or you can subscribe to my Patreon page and page on Boosty, where I have quite a lot of extra content on regular basis. All the links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And of course, many thanks to everyone who already helped and continues to support. Thank you.